Walmart wants to source around $10 billion from India. There's Uniqlo who's looking at India. There are a lot of other retailers who want to come to India. The world definitely feels that India is in the right place.
I can't believe we're having this conversation. So you run a $1 billion company and you come home and you're like, Aaj khane mein kya ban raha hai?
Khane mein kya ban raha hai? The cleaning, calendar, to everything. So now having 30% women at the blue collar associates. But I always say that, the white collar is the most important, where you still don't have that much of diversity. Coming from a conservative Marwari community that I come from, I think having a boy was so important. I said, I have to work to open the doors for my girls.
I'm in conversation with the CEO and MD of Wellspun Living. It's a company that makes textile, bed sheets, bed and bath and flooring, and it supplies these textiles to IKEA, to Walmart, to Martha Stewart, to Disney. It gives towels to Wimbledon. It does business in 50 countries. It has 30,000 employees, and it has a revenue of over $1 billion. The thing that I find fascinating about this company is that it's run by a woman. And in the last 1 year, it has found ways to reduce the water it wastes, to increase the number of women in its entire supply chain from tree to customer. I'm in conversation with the woman at the helm of this company. Dipali Goenka, it is a pleasure to sit down with you. I'm putting the paper away because I'm so excited that we finally get to talk. And I find that whenever I talk to women in business, the personal stories that they have to share are just fascinating. But first I want to ask you about this. I understand that your business has a target revenue of 15,000 crore rupees for the next couple of years. So there's obviously a lot of ambition and a lot of optimism. What's driving this optimism right now?
First of all, Faye, thank you for having me here. I'm an ardent fan of yours. So are my daughters. Thank you. So yes, the optimism is definitely there. And when we look at, when we talk about globally, India is in a right spot. Biggest sourcing destination for most of the retailers across the globe. Big opportunity for India. And I think that's really is what has got, us also look at things in India as well. India, in the terms of the consumption economy, the way we are looking at the consumer evolving, our India goals are also very, very aggressive. Our focus is, and we've coined this, Har Ghar Se Har Dil Tak Wellspun. Because, we feel that, with the consumption growing the way it is, spaces in Wellspun itself, and with our flooring business in India will be around 1,700 crores. And emerging businesses, if I talk about retail and flooring and advanced textiles, we are looking at, 45% of the top line. And having said that, that doesn't stop us from growing across the globe itself alone. I mean, taking that share of shelf, it is not just the private label, it is the licensed brands that we have in the United States of America, UK, Europe, we have Disney, which is again a license that we have, and also hospitality businesses across the globe. Having said that, I think flooring is again a very interesting opportunity that we look at. So yes, the optimism is there and huge opportunity there.
My understanding is that India is almost half of the American market for sheets. Is that correct?
Not even half. So, the massiveness of the consumption that the American economy has, it is the largest consumption of home textiles in the world.
Okay.
Nobody comes second to it. I mean, UK is far, far distant, and comes second. But India is evolving. And, I think the roti, kapda or makan is now holding true to the Indian consumer. The aspiration. Look at the housing market, the way it is evolving. It is incredible. And that, that millennial and the Gen Z, I mean, we are the youngest population in the world and going to be for the next 20 to 30 years. And I think that's the power of economy. And that's the power of consumption that the world is looking at us, right? So yes, that's where we are. But yes, I think let's look at it globally. I think for us, the canvas is global. So you have United States of America, UK, Europe, GCC. Again, you saw the KSA opening up their doors for development and really becoming a very huge deal in the Middle East as well. Australia, we have an FTA with Australia, and that actually gives us a great opportunity there as well. And of course, India, which actually is the heart of, I think, all the focus.
And it's in your mind, and we're talking about this a lot, right? In the media, we're talking about this in the country, that India is really taking her place right now globally as well. In your mind, in terms of the way we do business, the quality of the products that we're exporting right now, do you see that every day in business as well?
I can tell you, we make the world-class products in India. We make made in India for the world and the world's best innovative products, which are even sustainable. So I can tell you that, we definitely are having that credibility now. It wasn't there, earlier when we started business in 1993. But now I can say that, it is on the world map. The world is looking at us. And I would also say something, Faye, the kind of policies that the government has given opportunities to, and the kind of the growth that everybody is looking at. For example, Walmart wants to source around $10 billion from India. There's Uniqlo who's looking at India. There are a lot of other retailers who want to come to India. And I think that, again, is not just because India is in conversation. It is about the policies that you're talking about. It is about the opportunities in the terms of the growth in infrastructure, the PM Mantra scheme. I mean, imagine the kind of SEZs we're looking at here. I think there's a whole lot of things that are happening. The privatization of ports. I think the world definitely feels that India is in the right place.
I do want to ask you about your relationship at Wellspun Living with, with farmers right up till customers, right? And we focus on farmers to begin with. And I find that really interesting, that you do take a lot of interest in cotton farming because that's your primary raw material. And cotton farming has been a difficult space for businesses and for farmers. Tell me what you're doing there to make it easier on both ends.
Faye, that's the reason we are looking at farming, because it's very difficult. And how the weather plays such a big role in the crop and the livelihoods of farmers, right? They are, at the mercy sometimes of the agents and the others, but however, there are a lot of things that the government has again done with the minimum support prices to protect them. And there are a lot of other opportunities there for the farmers now to look at it. For us, it is very important to look at that farm to shelf, look at how we can actually work with the farmers to get them better techniques of sowing, better seeds. So we have, we have few farmers that we are working with, around 26,000 farmers and 50,000 farm workers across Nakatrana in Gujarat and in Maharashtra and then in Telangana as well. And here, our people on the field. We have we have an AI through which they can see what is the quality of seed, whether, the weather forecast, what they should be sowing. So, we work with them for better farm practices. Not only that, also to work with, how, for education for the children, the community development as well. So these are things that we are doing. And we feel that this is, again, a kind of a model that I think a lot of people should look at to evolve, to see how we can really look at, the way of better farm practices, how we can get better yield as well. And I think that's where, we feel the entire supply chain can be looked at. So while we buy cotton from across, but these are the practices that we work and evolve gradually.
So you are at this point, running a campaign to change the way Indian farmers are viewed. Tell us why that's important to you.
You know why? I'll just give you a simple example, first of all. I'll talk about myself as well, and women in, not only in women in factories as well. Always, in textiles, I must say, it is all about men. It's a complete male-dominated textile industry that you're talking about. Similarly, when you talk about farmers, though 75% are, women are farm workers, in farms, but you'll always see pictures and imagery of men farmers. And So, for us, even it is one aspect is talking about diversity.
Yeah.
The other aspect is the narrative. So when a child or a millennial looks at, kind of pictures, they also see women there.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important to get the narrative right. So one aspect is in the way it is, and the other is the narrative where people look at it and get what actually it is. Otherwise, it's all going to be the male farmer pictures that you get. So yes, that's what this EqualStock is all about, and we feel it's very powerful. So when we are talking about women, we're talking about them disrupting the glass ceiling to the disrupting this whole workspace. I think why not the farms as well?
And what is Wellspun doing with EqualStock? How are you going to change? So basically, the problem statement is that if I were to run a search on the internet right now for an Indian farmer, the photograph 19 out of 20 times, I think, is of a man.
Yeah.
And you want to change that.
Yes.
How are you going to change that?
So like we have loaded on, these many, we actually are working with around 2,400 farmers, farm women. They're working with us in our farm projects that we're doing. So, loading their pictures on. And that actually, when people, go and click, they will get the pictures of these women farmers as well. And having equal diversity there as well, I think. And that's what is going to make a big impact. And we want to, show this on the Women's Day, where it's not about just the workplace that you're talking about. It's even in the farming, where they, you always talk about men farmers.
Yeah.
And that also, you have 75 women farmers who are there actually, but it's never spoken about or seen.
Wellspun products tend to be, and you're looking at the premium market, what you're exporting and what you're selling in India. How do you pass on that benefit to the farmers who are actually growing for you?
So, we are looking at best practices there. We also, I must also tell you, there's a minimum support price. We basically, whatever the prices the market gives is what we basically talk to them and we give them the prices. Otherwise, we don't buy it from them. They get the better, they have to sell it at what they feel is the right price. So there's nothing that we basically influence their prices. So here it is something where we, they decide what they want to sell. So I think that's where they get their, opportunity to sell at the price that they are looking at. So we give them the practices. We are basically doing it to get better farm practices into the being, and also about the better cotton initiatives. So that is very, very important to us. Because if you know that, the regular cotton is more, consumes more water vis-a-vis the better cotton initiative cotton that you have. So we are basically working on the BCI as a project. And they're all recognized by the BCI.
And how does the BCI, because it's an interesting conflict for you, right? Your business depends on the cotton prices staying low. Because if they go very high, then that affects your margins. But if they stay very low, then it hurts the farmers. So how do you find that balance? And again, cotton is a water guzzling product. How are you, making sure that you stay sustainable at that level?
So definitely, there's a level that you got to be, and there's a certain price that actually works well for both the sides, whether it's the farmer or the manufacturer as well. And we maintain that balance. And also with farming practices that, we're working with helps them to, look at a better crop cultivation as well. So I think that's where it is. But if you talk about, our costs and the prices, there are a lot of other things that we are doing here as well. So one thing is also innovation. How are we looking at, the circularity? How we are upcycling cotton as well, recycling cotton as well. So that actually reduces the landfill as well. So it is in a smaller way, but I think it's every drop is very, very important and relevant to the ecosystem that we live in. So I'll give you a small example. We upcycle the rags that are generated out of our, factories, or, the sheets and the towels, and we make, cushions and rugs out of it. The women, it is like, if you know Kutch and Anjar, it is very craft oriented. So women make, cushions and rugs on their pitlooms.
Yeah.
And women are operating their bank account. And they didn't know how to even sign. So they learned that. And now, the whole thing, I feel that if a woman is empowered, the child is going to go to school. a journey towards 5 trillion GDP is not going to be just coming in easy, with just one side of the gender working and the other not. So that 50% is so important to contribute to that, GDP that we are talking about. And it's not going to happen. It is from the hinterland. It is from the basic, the fundamentals of our villages and the rural part, which is so important. And again, literacy is so important. I think, why are we behind China? China is 100% literacy. We are at not even 60 to 70% literacy rates. So I think this is so important to make that impact. So, it is like it comes a full circle. So when you talked about cotton is also like upcycled. Recycling is again a very interesting thing. Like all the droppings through a spinning and the waste that gets generated, we again find its way back into the yarn. So we again spin it back. So we are trying our best to work on different things as well, even different, like viscose, lyocell, the other forms of, fibers, which actually make a different kind of a product. So I think that's where it is. And along with what we do, Faye, I must tell you, we don't use a drop of fresh water in our factories. Fresh water. 30 million liters of water, I mean, you must come and see, gets used in our factories. But, we get the water from sewage from the villages, and we pay royalty to the villages here so that they get potable water to drink, and the farmers get water for irrigation. So it is very interesting how we are getting that whole ecosystem together. Because otherwise, imagine you're making your textile product in an arid part of the country, and if there's no water and Narmada goes dry, you're still using water. How relevant is that, to the communities, and how impactful is that to the communities, We can still do that, but it's not, I mean, for us, I think, we always believe and that, we are the agents of change. I remember the time, 1993 was the time when we set up our first factory. That was in Vapi, and that was the time when License Raj was going and, India was opening. We set up a first towel factory. And that time, I think India didn't have any credibility of, whatsoever. And then comes 2003 when we set up this plant in Kutch after the devastating earthquake. And that's a time, as an organization, we decided, and with the resolve, we said, we have to be the agents of change. Any business cannot just exist. We cannot just be doing business.
They are be part of an ecosystem.
Yeah, and you need to make that impact. So even our schools there, our communities there, I think all are so important to, grow with us as we grow.
And I must congratulate you. You've just been named in CNBC's global list of 50 women change makers who head businesses. And part of their citation was the fact that you've changed the gender representation ratio within your business as well, from what was 3% to 25%? Is that correct? 30%. Congratulations on that. Tell me why that's important to you. And it's easy, and we've seen a lot of businesses do it. It's easy to do it in your corporate office. But there are a lot of other spaces, like your factory floors, for example. Tell me why that was important to you and how you managed to do it.
Let me own it up. When I came into textiles, I didn't know anything about textiles. I didn't know how to buy cotton. I didn't know how to, what the processes were. But I knew the other side, who's buying is a woman, whether it was the customer or the consumer.
Yeah.
I decided I have to play on my strengths more than anything else. I don't know certain things. I will learn. it. And I did that. I rolled up my sleeves. I was on my shop floor. And that's where I learned everything. But what are my strengths? I know the woman better than anybody else. The other men who are around me, right? What is that can make a difference? And I feel the opportunity that exists is that, the IQ and EQ have to work together to complement.
Okay.
And I think that's where a woman comes into it.
Give me an example of how that was a strength for you.
So imagine if I'm, making, what is the story I'll be telling? It's not about manufacturing only. How are we making that product? What is relevant for the consumer in America or in UK and Europe? So now we have this brain trust that we work with, where we reach out to 3,000 home enthusiasts who we test our products with. Same in UK and Europe. In India as well. I'll give you a small anecdote here. When we launched a brand Wellspun in India, the journey from that gamcha to our jaldi sukhaye towel of Wellspun, we did a consumer research. And we called these women, and what were their problems? If I could have launched that 550 GSM towel, which I'm selling in America, it wouldn't have. And India mein, आप hinterland में जाते हैं, you will not get power. Yeah. You might have a washing machine. Okay? Water is not there available. They'll still wash the towel and just with that typical way of washing it, right? So then, what can we do here better? So we made a towel which was a quick dry towel, which actually can dry faster. In Bombay, 6 months is rain. How do you dry that towel? So similarly, the same thing which we applied, that that I think a woman knows more than anybody else. And so we did these consumer researches here. So I think the relevance of that actually really helps. And that really makes a difference, Faye. And that's what I did, basically. Then sustainability for me was very important. Diversity for me was very, very important. And I felt that if you make a towel or if you make a sheet, how do you make that impact sustainably as well? So for me, that's a mandate. And I mean, our goals are very, very clear. By 2030, what are our goalposts and milestones for sustainability as well? A lot of people say that, being sustainable is expensive. Yeah. I said no. And I will still maintain that, because if you, look at the energy baskets, coal, it just goes, it has its peak, it has its trough. But imagine if you invest in solar power or, the hybrid power or the other things, you're making you can make an energy basket which can de-risk. There's so much that we can do with sustainability that can really be sustainable, not only for the planet, but also for you and business as well. So yes, that's the most important thing here. I just want to share one anecdote, and which I usually do, and which is my favorite one. I remember in 2011 and 12, there was a program that we were doing with one of the NGOs called Swasti and with Walmart. It was a Her Finance program that we're doing across the world. And one of my girls, her name was Avni Bhadra, she got chosen out of those 2,000 factories to go and represent. And for the first time, she traveled from Anjar to Arkansas. And, I can tell you, there's nothing that is more powerful than an example to lead by. Yeah. After Avni went, and there were so many girls who wanted to become these Avnis at our factories, and that's where this whole diversity started coming in a very full-blown way as well. So now having 30% women at the blue collar associates, but I always say that the white collar is the most important, where you still don't have that much of diversity. We have around 8% diversity in the white collar. And, if they're 30% here, so we want to reach to 12% here. And leadership, we have around 5 to 6% in the leadership. They're the CEOs, women CEOs, who are there in my company as well, or in the leadership positions. But I think there's so much more to be done there.
It's fascinating, right? That there's better representation right now on the factory floor than there is in the boardroom. Yes. And people would have assumed it was the other way.
No, it is not the other way.
Even with a conscious attempt to change it. It's still
yes, because there's so many other challenges, right? Like, when you come home, the other thing is that, the responsibility is all yours as a woman, right?
I can't believe we're having this conversation. So you run a $1 billion company, and you come home and you're like, Aaj khane mein kya ban raha hai?
Yes. I think everything. Khane mein kya ban raha hai? The cleaning, calendar, to everything. I mean, everything, of course. You got to do everything when you have to do. Wow. So I think we're groomed like that. And I think the day when we have sons, or, how the mothers groom their children, their sons, to really take on the equal responsibility, is where the world's going to change. Otherwise, it's going to be the same. And it's the women who can make that difference. Totally.
So I want to talk about when you started. And even though things are tough now, when you started in the 80s, it was very different. And so a woman from a traditional business family coming into the boardroom, was that a welcoming space?
It wasn't, believe me. And so I started working in 2000, and I started with Brand Spaces. I launched it in 2003. That was my own baby when I started. And 2009 was the time when I took on the roles of Wellspun India. Believe me, there were no women in this organization, not in Wellspun in the terms of leadership, but also in the textile peers who were there across the board, across the country. No. So the word was that is Wellspun even serious about what they're planning to do here?
Or why have they sent a woman?
Why do they have a woman here running the business? Does she even understand what business is all about? They literally perceived Wellspun in a very negative light. But I think I always believe if you have the resolve and the focus and the commitment, I think it really makes all the difference. Seriously.
So tell me this, and obviously you're doing a lot of business in India, you're doing a lot of business overseas because you recently pitched and won Martha Stewart's business, you recently pitched and won Disney. Is there a difference? As someone who leads a business, as a woman who leads a business, is there a difference to the way you're perceived here and the way you're perceived overseas?
I feel globally they're far more evolved now compared to even India now. I mean, I can tell you that, there are a lot of retailers where our product goes, and happy to share that we have this women-owned business package, kind of a logo that goes on those packages. So the respect that they have for women-owned businesses is tremendous. And really, that's something that that is really very, very heartening. India is coming along now, but still the perceptions are yet to evolve here. And they will evolve when more and more women come into businesses, into these kind of traditional businesses. Like you will have more startups, more women in the ecosystem. But when you talk about manufacturing, you'll still see very few women here. But I think it is still evolving in India. I must tell you that.
Is there a view that, this is just your husband's business and, you're here because it's a hobby?
It sometimes comes across like that. And lot of times people just feel that I'm doing some designing, or I'm just marketing a few things here or there, and they still feel the same. I mean, that's what it is. So it is just the perception that a man gets vis-a-vis a woman, and I've seen it firsthand, and I said, okay, it's fine. It doesn't matter, because I think for me, to make that impact is most important. Everything will follow.
So what do you tell yourself in your head every time you face something like this? And you've been at it for now 20 years. So you're a battle veteran at this point. What makes you, and it happens to all of us, right? You go into a space feeling confident and someone says something, and for a minute there's a lot of self-doubt that creeps in, like, okay, why am I here? You have to sort of build yourself back up again. How do you do that?
I just... I seriously just believe in myself. I actually go into that. I go to the meeting that I know that I could be better than them or like them, and I basically have a resolve to just make an impact. I'm telling you that way, and I think if I don't do it, I have those women in my organization who believe in me, and there's so many other women that who look up to me. I hold myself responsible for that, and I really feel. I tell my daughters as well. Just believe in yourself, and I'm telling you, there's nothing more powerful than that, Faye. There's nothing more powerful than that, because if you believe in yourself and your capabilities or what you can, let the perceptions be. It's all about the impact that you make. Period. And I think that's most important. And I really feel that's what it is for all of us.
You started obviously working when your children were still, you have two daughters.
I have two daughters, 10 and 7, when I got married.
They were 10 and 7 when you started working. And again, is that, for want of better words, the juggling?
It was difficult, because for me, I remember the time I used to send them to their, I used to drop them to the carpool and then get back home, take up their homework, put them to sleep, and again start the routine again at 6 a.m. in the morning. For me, that's been the time where, sometimes I couldn't even go to the parents-teachers meetings. But if I ask Vanshika and my older daughter Radhika today, what do you think if Mama could have done better? They said nothing. I think what you did is important for us, for an example that you set up for us, because I think that's so important, Faye, because if they would have seen me struggling, they would have seen me doing the things. I think it's the next generation. And for me, coming from a conservative Marwari community that I come from, I think having a boy was so important because, they take on the tradition forward. They take on the family forward. For me, that was important, where I said I have to work to open the doors for my girls. And I think that's where it was.
So you're telling me that you faced, you faced problems because you didn't have a son? People pointed that out to you?
A lot. And it is something where, and it's people like us, talking about it. And it is something where I feel, how can a boy be better than a girl? We live in an equal world, don't we? And that's where my resolve came in even more stronger, Faye. So when I even got into meetings, I went in a resolve, no, I have to make this difference. It's me who can make that difference.
That's fascinating. When you were missing the PTA meetings and you were missing the annual days and the sports days, was there a lot of guilt?
The guilt still remains, Faye, sometimes. I feel that that's the way we have been brought up and conditioned. But maybe our girls won't be, because that's the way we have set them to be, and that's the upbringing we have given them. So I think it's going to be a better world, and it gets better as we go forward. But I think I still had that guilt, for sure.
If you were to, at this point, and obviously, and I'm sure you're constantly building your daughters for a different world, if you were to give advice to the young people who are listening right now, and we're currently working on an India that's very different. It's very confident. It's taking on the world. The world is our oyster.
Yeah.
Right? How do we keep our feet on the ground while still being ambitious and, still looking at everything the world has to offer?
Faye, I always tell my girls, and I tell everybody, believe in yourself. And there's one thing I also say, and I always believe, is never give up. And I'll tell you, the challenges will come. And they come. They so do. They do, right? But if you continue to be at it and never give up on that path, you will see success there. And also one more important bit that I feel, leaders make more leaders. And if you can support more women and more people along the way as you grow, is where you really make an impact. And it's across all the, kind of socioeconomic strata that I'm talking about. It's in the workplace that you are, in the communities that you are in. I think that's where it will really make a difference. And I say that it is so important for the young India that we are living in. It is the young country. It is the youngest country in the world. And if we can do this, is where it will be most powerful.
I also believe that we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes, right? So with your permission, I'm going to ask you about a difficult time for your company, which was 2016, when you faced a problem with the sheets that were going out. It hit the valuation of the company. And it also hit the sort of value prospect of the company. Yeah. Tell us what happened and how you overcame it, because you did.
Sophie, that was the toughest time for me. And I will say that, and I can tell you that was a mistake. And how I went and met all the retailers across. The biggest thing and the most difficult thing is to go and say that, yes, we bungled up and we made a mistake. But I led it from the front, and I sat with all the retailers globally that yes, we have bungled up, but within the next 2 months is where we're going to come back with a solution. And kept on checking on to what we can, and we kept on, we created the best traceability solution. The governance of ours became absolutely, very, very credible now. I mean, we now are completely with our Dow Jones Sustainability Index, Sustainalytics. So yes, that was the toughest time for me. But I think I could have crumbled. I could have also said that, now, I didn't need to go and own up then. I would have just been and said, no, it just was a mistake. I mean, in the sense of no, it was something that we have to correct ourselves. How do we take it forward and make it an opportunity, an example for the industry that, this is what you have to really, because these difficulties will come in. The traceability issue exists in the industry. Because it is a complex supply chain. So the blockchain traceability, the kind of the fiber, from where it is coming in from, the governance of the company, I think was so important because the whole credibility just crumbled. So I just led it from the front, reached out to all the customers, and I can tell you, today, that tough time taught us to become what we are today. I mean, our innovation to our sustainability to what we have in organization, really proud of what we've done here. Because I wouldn't have let it go just that way, ever.
And is that where, I mean, you did say, of course, one of the things you keep telling your daughters is to never give up. Because when, and in business this happens, one bad step, and it just sort of has a domino effect on everything else. But to say, you know what, I'm personally going to meet with every single client. I'm personally going to own up. I'm personally going to fix this. It takes a massive amount of strength. Is that the strength you think that, people should remember in tough times, that just face it, go through it, come out the other side?
You got to face it, really take it, completely lead the company from the front. Faye, it is so important because that's where we'll give the people the strength. I mean, imagine, if I didn't do it, who would have done it? And my people who believe in me. I think as a leader, I had to, that was my responsibility. And own it, but you find, and find a solution and make an organization which is well worth that, for the people to invest their time in that company that they're working for and make them proud of that company that they're working for. I think that is so important.
One last thing I am going to ask you. Obviously, I asked you for your advice for young people, but when we're talking about people on your factory floor, people, the farmers that you do business with, the customers who you don't meet personally, who are buying your products and using your products, they're part of their daily life. What is that message from Wellspun that you want to give them?
I can tell them that, we're really proud of the company that we have, where, we're proud of the products that we make. I hope you love our quality that we do, because each one is made very, very carefully and with our people, by our people who really take pride in what they do. It is made sustainably. It is made being aware of the environment that we work with. And I can say that we make the world's best products.
Dipali, congratulations on all of your success, and I wish you very best in the future.
Thank you, Faye.
Thank you.